Georgie has been sick for years, but today she finally feels strong enough to step onto her balcony. She closes her eyes, enjoying a rare moment of calm, until Ivy appears. Ivy asks if she ever thinks about the unthinkable, and before Georgie can answer, she shoves her off the edge. Sylvie, Georgie's daughter, walks in and calls for her mother, but the balcony's empty. She doesn't know her mother is gone. She doesn't know the killer is still in the house, and she has no idea that the girl who did it is about to become her best friend. Days later, Sylvie wanders into her mother's room and freezes. Ivy is lying in Georgie's bed. She isn't embarrassed. She doesn't move. Instead, she pats the mattress and invites Sylvie to lie down. Sylvie plays along, unaware she is being manipulated by the monster who ruined her life. At a local hangout spot, Sylvie notices a girl she's never seen before. Wild hair, ripped clothes, and zero fear in her eyes. Ivy swings over a deep gorge from a rope tied to a tree like she's done it 100 times. Sylvie can't look away. Something about her is magnetic, dangerous, and impossible to ignore. A boy interrupts the moment, saying a dog has been hit by a car. Sylvie kneels beside the trembling animal, whispering to calm it. Ivy steps forward, picks up a metal pipe, and ends its suffering with one brutal strike. At school, the girls end up in the principal's office at the same time. Sylvie is there because she called in a bomb threat to the TV station where her dad works, just to get back at him for suggesting the driving age be raised to 21. Ivy is there because her grades are slipping and she's close to losing her scholarship. Ivy notices Sylvie staring at her tattoo and explains it isn't real. She just likes what it represents. The cross stands for death and the ivy stands for life. Sylvie lifts her hair to show the eye of Horus shaved into her undercut, revealing they're outsiders in their own way. The connection happens instantly. When Sylvie's angry father Daryl arrives to pick her up, Ivy asks for a ride. He refuses, but Sylvie, desperate to keep her new friend, insists Ivy is her best friend. Reluctantly, Daryl agrees. Ivy claims she gets car sick and slides into the front seat next to him. She stretches her legs and props her feet on the dashboard. Daryl notices. Ivy notices him noticing. And Sylvie, eager for Ivy's approval, pretends not to. Once Sylvie's grounding is lifted, the girls cross paths again at the rope swing. Ivy tries to get Sylvie to try it, but a terrified Sylvie pulls away and walks off. Ivy follows, silently apologizing. She only meant to push Sylvie out of her comfort zone. As they walk home, Ivy notices the necklace around Sylvie's neck and assumes her father must love her deeply to give such an expensive gift. Sylvie lies, saying Daryl is her adoptive father and that her biological dad was black, that Daryl married her mother and adopted her just to make her mother feel better. Ivy reveals that her own father never wanted her around and eventually left her and her mother, never returning. Trading these painful stories draws them closer. Sylvie eventually lifts her sleeve to show scars on her hand, confessing that she once attempted the unthinkable. By the time they reach Sylvie's house, Sylvie, desperate for connection, invites Ivy inside. However, Ivy nearly gets attacked by Sylvie's dog, as the animal only allows Sylvie to touch it. They move into the living room, with its wide view over the San Fernando Valley. Ivy stares out and says that if she ever wanted to do the unthinkable, she'd fall from a great height. At that moment, Sylvie's sick mother, Georgie, walks in on the conversation and realizes her daughter has once again lied about attempting the unthinkable, and that Daryl isn't her real father. Georgie isn't impressed by Ivy either, and believes she would be a bad influence on Sylvie. Ivy overhears and tries to leave, but a guilty Georgie makes a small effort to welcome her. Ivy seizes the chance, assuring her that she doesn't mean any trouble and mentioning that she's a bright student on a scholarship. Before Georgie can respond, she suddenly begins to choke as her oxygen tank stops working. Ivy steps in immediately and fixes it, explaining that she knows what it's like to watch someone die. She lost her own mother when she was still young. She describes her mother's final moments with such sensitivity that it reaches Georgie, and for the first time, the sick woman feels truly understood. Over the next few days, Ivy's presence in the Cooper house becomes more constant. She and Sylvie shop together, though it's Ivy who buys while Sylvie pays. Soon, Georgie also starts handing down her expensive clothes to Ivy, since their figures are nearly the same. Even Daryl warms up to her. Before long, Ivy is practically part of the household. She and Sylvie share a bed, like sisters. One afternoon on the balcony, Daryl joins Ivy and tries to get to know her a little better. Ivy casually brings up the house party he's planning. Since the bomb threat, Daryl's career has been struggling, and he's throwing a party in hopes of saving it. She tells him Sylvie feels responsible and wants to help. Then she playfully adds that she can't promise to be on her best behavior and offers to stay away. Later, however, Ivy answers a call from Sylvie's boss at a charity center where she volunteers. She says Sylvie can work on the night of her father's party, deliberately planning to remove Sylvie from the event. As the big day approaches, Sylvie realizes her parents have slowly started to ignore her while paying more attention to Ivy. She tries to please her dad, but her efforts fall flat. Even when Georgie suffers one of her health episodes, it's Ivy who manages to calm her down. Feeling sidelined, Sylvie decides to rebel and Ivy suggests they get real tattoos. Ivy gets a permanent version of her stick-on tattoo, while Sylvie chooses a peace symbol. However, she immediately regrets getting a tattoo, and they hitch a ride back home. Ivy jumps in the front seat, while Sylvie ends up crammed in the trunk for the whole trip. This makes Sylvie begin to wonder why nothing ever goes right for her. Ivy comforts her, telling her life takes time to figure out. Then, to seal her loyalty, Ivy kisses her and says she'll always be there for her. At the office, Daryl begins to feel the weight of his shaky career and the fact that his wife is slowly dying. At home, Georgie spends time on the balcony, staring at the ground below, toying with thoughts of the unthinkable. It takes both Ivy and Sylvie to pull her back to safety. When Daryl returns home with a fresh haircut, he finds Ivy waiting on the stairs. She compliments his new look, then makes a clumsy effort at engaging her friend's father in a serious conversation. The night of the big party finally arrives, and Sylvie's boss from the charity center shows up to collect her for the volunteer work. Ivy quickly steps in and lies, saying she innocently mixed up the dates and offers to fill in for Sylvie at the house party, since the kids at the charity event are counting on Sylvie's presence. Sylvie makes the difficult choice and leaves. Ivy straightens her hair, slips into one of Georgie's expensive dresses, and makes a dramatic entrance at the party. Daryl is taken aback by how poised she looks. Meanwhile, Georgie is feeling better than she has in months. While going through some old pictures, she realizes how far she's drifted from her husband. Tonight, she plans to change that. But after the party winds down and the house is empty again, Ivy stays behind, dancing alone in the kitchen. Daryl walks in carrying some unopened wine bottles, and they start to dance together. Upstairs, Georgie puts on her favorite dress to surprise her husband. When she comes down and sees the scene, she feels betrayed and storms back upstairs. Daryl follows and tries to explain, but Ivy walks in carrying 2 glasses of champagne. She apologizes, telling Georgie she only hugged Daryl because he was upset that he misses his wife so much. Her voice is so soft, so convincing, that Georgie actually believes her. She takes the glass from Ivy, unaware that it's laced. Moments later, Georgie falls asleep. Ivy begins massaging Daryl's shoulders, then tucks Georgie into bed like a nurse before quietly slipping out of the room. Over the next few days, Ivy keeps straightening her hair and wearing more of Georgie's clothes, as if she's trying to replace her. Sylvie notices, and her irritation grows. One afternoon, she finds Ivy with her dog in Georgie's sports car and snaps. Her dog has always been loyal only to her, so she challenges Ivy, making the dog choose between them. Ivy cheats, shaking treats in her pocket to win. They argue, and Ivy turns it into an issue about her being poor and dependent on Sylvie. She then returns the skirt Sylvie once bought her and leaves the property. That day, Sylvie skips school and heads back to the rope swing, hoping to find Ivy, but Ivy actually went to school. Daryl uses the opportunity to pick Ivy up. They drive into the forest, where they spend time together in the rain. Afterwards, Ivy returns to the Cooper's home and apologizes to Sylvie. Sylvie forgives her and lets her back in. The next morning, Georgie plays a song Sylvie made for her and steps onto the balcony once again. Ivy appears behind her, speaking softly about whether Georgie ever thinks of ending it all. Before Georgie can answer, Ivy shoves her off the balcony, framing it to look like the act Georgie had often threatened. At the funeral, Sylvie is crushed with guilt. She remembers all the times she brushed her mother off, thinking her illness was just for attention, and realizes she never told her mom how much she loved her. Unable to sleep, Sylvie wanders into her mother's room and finds Ivy lying in Georgie's bed. Ivy doesn't move or seem embarrassed. Instead, she invites Sylvie to lie down beside her. Desperate for closeness, Sylvie plays along as Ivy encourages her to pretend she's speaking to her mother. Sylvie pours out everything she had kept inside, and Ivy listens, far too comfortably in Georgie's place. Meanwhile, Daryl's career finally falls apart, and he's replaced at work. As weeks pass, Sylvie slowly finds the strength to move on. One afternoon, she washes Georgie's old sports car, trying to hold on to the last piece of her mother. Ivy walks up, carrying Georgie's urn. She suggests they take the car out for a goodbye road trip for Georgie. As Ivy drives, she speeds recklessly, humming a tune under her breath. Sylvie realizes it's the same song she recorded for her mom, the one Georgie first played on the morning she died. No one else could have known it. Sylvie demands to know what her mother's final words were, since Ivy must have been the last person to see her alive. Ivy snaps, accusing Sylvie of suggesting she killed Georgie. Then instead of answering, she crashes the car. Sylvie suffers a head injury and blacks out, while Ivy survives with only a bruised chest and the steering wheel mark pressed into her skin. Ivy drags Sylvie into the driver's seat to frame her, then leaves. At the hospital, Sylvie tries to warn her father that Ivy is dangerous and that she killed Georgie, but Daryl doesn't believe her. He only sees the tattoo on her leg and the fact that Sylvie was found behind the wheel with her mother's urn. To him, it looks like his daughter is lashing out from guilt, not telling the truth. When her father leaves, Sylvie imagines her mother sitting in front of her, and it sparks something inside her. If her dad won't listen, then she has to act. Sylvie successfully sneaks out of the hospital and arrives home in the pouring rain to find her dog shivering outside. She brings him in, only to catch sight of Ivy and her father together. The betrayal stings, so she runs back into the storm. Daryl runs after her and slips. When Ivy helps him up, he notices the crash mark pressed into her chest. She spins another lie, saying she only moved Sylvie into the driver's seat to protect him from insurance trouble. He tells Ivy to go back inside while he searches for his daughter. Ivy returns to Georgie's old room. She puts on Georgie's robe, inserts the tape that had been playing the morning Georgie died, and steps out onto the balcony. Below in the rain, Sylvie looks up. With her head injury fogging her mind, she doesn't see Ivy. She sees her mother standing where she always used to. Sylvie rushes upstairs and tells her mother that she loves her. The figure answers back. They share a moment, but then Sylvie realizes it's Ivy and pushes her back. Ivy slips over the edge of the balcony, grabbing hold of Sylvie's necklace. For a moment, the two are locked together by nothing but that fragile chain. Then it snaps. Ivy falls, still clutching the broken necklace, and her story ends as suddenly as Georgie's did. In the closing moments, Sylvie admits that she still misses Ivy, and in her own way, still loves her. She also forgives her, because in the end, Ivy was even more alone than she was.